We're in the final stretch with just 15 days left to reach 1 Shuo Zeren subscribers. If you enjoy these magical stories about connection, purpose, and unexpected miracles, please take a moment to subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating these tales. Hit that subscribe button, share with friends who love fantasy stories, and leave a comment about what resonates with you. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, let's begin today's touching story. Maya Thornwell had moved to the cottage on the edge of Whisperwood Forest to escape. At 32 years old, she had left behind a life that had slowly suffocated her. A job in the city that demanded everything and gave nothing in return. A failed engagement to a man who had loved her potential earnings more than her actual self. And a family who saw her as a disappointment because she had chosen teaching over more lucrative careers. The cottage was small, isolated, and perfect. It had belonged to her grandmother, who had left it to Maya in her will along with a note. For when you need to remember who you are, instead of who everyone expects you to be. Maya had taken a position teaching at the small village school 5 miles from the cottage. The pay was modest, but the work was meaningful. The children actually wanted to learn. Their parents appreciated her efforts, and for the first time in years, Maya went to bed each night, feeling like her day had mattered. She had been living in the cottage for 3 months when the knocking started. The first time it happened, Maya assumed it was a branch blown against the door by the wind. It was late evening, just after sunset, and she was preparing dinner when she heard it. 3 deliberate knocks, evenly spaced, clearly intentional. She opened the door to find no one there. Just the forest path, empty and quiet in the fading light. "Probably kids from the village," she muttered, returning to her cooking. The next night, the knocking came again. Same time, same pattern. 3 deliberate knocks just after sunset. This time, Maya opened the door immediately, determined to catch whoever was pranking her. But again, no one was there. She stepped outside, looked around the cottage perimeter, found nothing. On the 3rd night, she waited by the door, ready to fling it open the moment she heard the knocks. 3 knocks. She yanked the door open instantly and found herself staring at a unicorn. Maya's breath caught. The creature stood perhaps 10 feet from her door, clearly the source of the knocking. Its horn was still extended toward where the door had been. It was smaller than the legendary unicorns of stories, standing about the size of a large pony. Its coat was pure white, with an iridescent sheen that caught the moonlight, and its horns spiraled with delicate silver tracery. But what struck Maya most were its eyes, deep brown, intelligent, and desperately sad. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then the unicorn lowered its head, turned, and walked back into the forest, disappearing into the trees. Maya stood in her doorway, wondering if she had imagined the whole thing. Unicorns were not real, they were fairy tales, legends, stories for children, yet she had just seen one, as clearly as she had ever seen anything. The 4th night, she was ready with her phone to take a photo. The knocking came, she opened the door. The unicorn stood there closer this time, barely 5 feet away. Maya raised her phone, but before she could take a picture, the unicorn's horn glowed softly and her phone went dead, the screen completely black. When she looked up, the unicorn was already walking away. "Wait," Maya called without thinking. "Why do you keep coming here?" The unicorn paused, looked back at her with those sad eyes, but did not answer. Of course it did not answer. Unicorns could not speak. Except as it turned away, Maya could have sworn she heard a voice in her mind, female and gentle. "Not yet. You are not ready to know yet." The knocking continued every night for 2 weeks. Maya stopped trying to photograph the unicorn. Instead, she began leaving offerings by the door. Apples, carrots, sugar cubes, anything she thought a magical horse-like creature might eat. The unicorn never touched the offerings. It would knock, wait for Maya to open the door, stand there for a moment with those heartbreaking eyes, then turn and leave. "Why do you keep coming?" Ah, Maya asked one night, her frustration boiling over. What do you want from me? The unicorn tilted its head, studying her. Then it did something it had never done before. It stepped forward, close enough that Maya could have touched it, and pressed its nose gently against her hand. The moment they made contact, images flooded Maya's mind. She saw the forest, but not as it was now. She saw it as it had been years ago, full of light and magic, with creatures she had only read about in stories, fairies dancing in clearings, talking animals gathering in councils, and unicorns, dozens of unicorns, living in a crystal grove at the forest's heart. Then the images turned dark. She saw humans coming with weapons and greed, hunting the magical creatures, destroying the sacred groves, driving the magic from the forest. She saw unicorns fleeing or being captured, their horns harvested for potions, their magic drained. And she saw one small unicorn, just a foal, hiding in a hollow tree, while hunters killed its mother. Saw it grow up alone, the last of its kind in a forest that had forgotten magic. Saw it wandering for decades, isolated and lonely, the final remnant of a lost age. The images faded, and Maya stumbled backward, tears streaming down her face. "You're alone," she whispered. "You're the last one. And you come here because my cottage is built on the site of the old crystal grove, isn't it? You're returning to the only home you ever knew." The unicorn's confirmation came not in words, but in the profound sadness in its eyes. "I'm so sorry," Maya said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know. I didn't realize. What can I do? How can I help?" The unicorn stepped back, and this time its voice in her mind was clear. "Just see me. Just acknowledge that I exist. For 40 years, I have been invisible to humans. They walk past me in the forest without seeing. They deny that magic exists, and their denial makes me fade. But you see me. You have seen me from the first night. That is why I come. Because being seen, even for a moment, reminds me that I am real." "Of course you're real," Maya said fiercely. "You're standing right in front of me. You're as real as I am." "But for how much longer?" the unicorn asked sadly. "I am the last. When I fade completely, unicorns will become nothing but legend. Already I feel myself becoming less substantial. Another decade, perhaps 2, and I will be gone entirely. The last of my kind, vanishing because there is no one left to believe we exist." Maya sat down on her doorstep, overwhelmed by the tragedy of it. An entire species reduced to one lonely individual, slowly fading from existence because the world had stopped believing in magic. "There has to be something we can do," Maya said. "Some way to help you. What if I told people about you? What if I brought others to see you?" "They would not see," the unicorn said. "Or they would see and try to capture me, to profit from my existence. Humans have not changed since they destroyed my kind. Only those with true sight can perceive me now, and such humans are rare. You are the first I have found in 10 years. "Then I will see you every night," Maya said firmly. "If being seen helps you remain, then I will be here every single night. I promise." The unicorn's eyes widened with something that might have been hope. "You would do this, for a creature you do not know, for magic you never believed in before." "I would do this for someone who is alone and suffering," Maya corrected. "I don't care if you're a unicorn or a lost dog or a lonely neighbor. No one should have to be invisible. No one should have to question their own existence. So yes, I will see you. Every night. For as long as you need." "Why?" the unicorn asked, genuinely confused. "What do you gain from this?" Maya thought about her own life, about feeling invisible in a city that did not see her, about being surrounded by people but profoundly alone, about knowing what it felt like to question your own worth when no one acknowledged your existence. "Because I understand what it's like to feel unseen," Maya said quietly, "and because sometimes being seen is the most important thing in the world." From that night on, their visits changed. The unicorn still knocked at sunset, but now Maya would invite it inside. They could not speak in traditional ways. The unicorn's voice only came through touch, through images and feelings, but they communicated. Maya would tell the unicorn about her day, about the children she taught, about the small joys she found in her new life. And through touch, the unicorn would share memories of the old forest, of magic as it had been, of a world that had been lost. They formed an unlikely friendship. The lonely woman and the last unicorn, both seeking connection in a world that had overlooked them. One evening, about a month after they had truly begun communicating, the unicorn arrived looking more substantial than Maya had ever seen it. Its coat gleamed brighter, its horns sparkled with inner light, and it moved with energy that had been absent before. "Your belief is helping," the unicorn said when Maya touched its neck in greeting. "Every night you see me, every time you acknowledge my existence, I become more real. You are anchoring me to this world through your recognition. You are saving my life simply by refusing to look away." "Good," Maya said, smiling, "because I have no intention of looking away. You're my friend now. Friends don't let each other fade into nothingness." "I want to give you something in return," the unicorn said, "a gift for the gift you have given me." "You don't owe me anything," Maya protested. "Nevertheless, I wish to give it. I am a unicorn. Despite being the last, despite being diminished, I still possess magic, and I would share it with the one who has shared her life with me." The unicorn's horn began to glow, and it touched the tip to Maya's forehead, right between her eyes. Power flowed into Maya, gentle but transformative. She gasped as her senses expanded. Suddenly she could see things she had never perceived before, the faint auras around living things, the subtle flows of natural magic through the forest, the traces of ancient enchantments woven into the land itself. "What did you do?" Maya whispered, seeing the world with new eyes. "I gave you true sight," the unicorn explained, "the ability to perceive magic as it truly is. This is a gift only unicorns can grant, and only to those we deem worthy. With this sight, you will never be blind to wonder again. You will see the magic that still exists in the world, hidden from those who have forgotten how to look." Maya walked outside and looked at the forest with her new vision. It was breathtaking. Every tree glowed with faint life energy. Small spirits, not quite visible before, now clear as day, danced among the flowers. The stars themselves seemed to pulse with ancient magic. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "I had no idea. All this beauty, all this magic, existing right alongside the ordinary world, and no one sees it. Most have forgotten how," the unicorn said. "But you will remember, and perhaps one day you will teach others to see again." Over the following months, Maya's life transformed. The true sight the unicorn had gifted her opened doors she had never known existed. She began to notice magical creatures in the forest, sprites that lived in flowers, small dragons that nested in caves, tree spirits that had been silent for decades, but began to speak to her once they realized she could see them. And as Maya saw them, they became more substantial. Just as her recognition had anchored the unicorn, her acknowledgement of these other magical beings helped them persist in a world that had forgotten them. Word spread among the hidden magical community. There was a human in the cottage by Whisperwood who had true sight, who could see and acknowledge them. Creatures that had been invisible for generations began to emerge from hiding, drawn to someone who could witness their existence. Maya's cottage became a haven. Fairies would knock on her window seeking conversation. Small spirits would leave gifts of flowers or shiny stones. Even an elderly wood dragon, no larger than a cat, took up residence in her garden shed, appreciating having someone who could see it. And every evening at sunset, the unicorn would knock on her door, and they would spend time together, two lonely souls who had found in each other exactly what they needed: proof that they mattered. 1 year after the unicorn first knocked on her door, Maya was visited by an old woman from the village. The woman, named Iris, had a reputation as the village eccentric, someone who talked about old magic and ancient ways. "I know about your visitor," Iris said without preamble, settling into Maya's kitchen as if she had been invited. "The unicorn that comes every evening. I wanted to see if the stories were true." Maya's defenses went up immediately. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Peace, child," Iris said with a gentle smile. "I mean no harm. I am like you, one who sees. There are so few of us left. I had to meet the woman who was saving the last unicorn simply by refusing to let it be invisible." Maya relaxed slightly. "You can see it too?" "I can," Iris confirmed, "though my sight is fading with age. But I remember the old days before the magic was driven into hiding. I remember when unicorns ran freely through these forests, when the world acknowledged wonder instead of denying it." "Yet why did it change?" Maya asked. "What made people stop believing?" "Fear, mostly," Iris said. "Fear of what we don't control. Fear of power we don't understand. It's easier to deny magic than to adapt to a world where humans are not the only intelligent beings. So we convinced ourselves it didn't exist, and the more we denied, the more it faded, until only echoes remained." "Maduma, the unicorn told me I have true sight now," Maya said, "that I can see magic as it really is. Is that common?" "Rare," Iris corrected. "Very rare. True sight is a gift unicorns give only to those they deem worthy, those with pure hearts and open minds. In the old days, those with true sight became bridges between the magical and mundane worlds. They helped humans and magical beings coexist. We need such bridges again." She leaned forward, her old eyes intense. "That unicorn chose you for a reason, Maya, not just because you could see it, but because you could help it, and through helping it, you could help restore what was lost. Are you willing?" "Willing to what?" Maya asked. "To be a bridge," Iris said. "To teach others to see. To bring back the wonder that was forgotten. It will not be easy. Most people resist what challenges their understanding of the world. But if enough people could see what you see, if enough believed, the magic would come back," Maya finished, understanding dawning. "If people believed, if they acknowledged the magical beings instead of denying them, those beings would become stronger, more real." "Exactly," Iris said with satisfaction. "You understand. Will you try?" Maya thought about the unicorn, slowly growing stronger because one person saw it every day. She thought about the sprites and spirits and small magical creatures that had begun to emerge because someone finally acknowledged their existence. And she thought about her students, young minds still open to wonder, not yet taught to deny what they perceived. "I'll try," Maya said. "I'll teach my students to see, not to force belief, but to open their eyes to possibility, to look for magic instead of assuming it doesn't exist." Iris smiled. "That is all anyone can ask. Start small, plant seeds. Wonder grows slowly, but it grows." Maya began incorporating lessons about observation and open-mindedness into her teaching. She took her students on nature walks, encouraged them to really look at the world around them, to notice details they usually overlooked. She did not tell them there are fairies in these flowers. Instead, she asked, "What do you think lives in these flowers?" And the children, still young enough to imagine, would offer possibilities. And sometimes, as they opened their minds to wonder, they would see a flicker of movement, a flash of light, something that suggested magic. "Miss Thornwell, I saw something in the garden," one student exclaimed after several weeks of these exercises. "It was tiny and glowing, and it waved at me." "Did you wave back?" Maya asked calmly. "I did, and it smiled." "Miss Thornwell, was it a fairy?" "What do you think it was?" Maya asked instead of answering directly. The child considered. I think it was. I think fairies are real. Is that silly? Is it silly to believe in things that bring joy and wonder? Maya asked. Is it silly to acknowledge what you perceive with your own eyes? If you saw it, why would it be silly to believe it was real? The child's face lit up with understanding and relief. Someone had given her permission to trust her own perception instead of denying it. More children began to see. Not all, some minds had already learned to filter out wonder, but enough. And as they saw, more magical creatures began to emerge in the village surroundings, drawn by the belief of children whose acceptance made them more real. Parents noticed the change in their children, more imagination, more joy, more connection to nature. Some were skeptical, but others were intrigued. A few began to accompany the nature walks, and occasionally an adult would see something they could not explain but could no longer deny. The unicorn watched these developments with increasing hope. On the 1-year anniversary of their first true communication, it arrived at Maya's cottage looking more vital than ever, its coat gleaming, its horn radiating power. You are doing it, the unicorn said, when Maya touched its neck in greeting. You are teaching them to see. I can feel it. The shift in belief, the growing acceptance. Magic is returning because people are willing to acknowledge it again. It's working, Maya asked, hardly daring to believe. Look at me, the unicorn said. Truly look. Do I seem diminished to you, or growing stronger? Maya studied her friend carefully. The unicorn was definitely more substantial than when they had first met. Its presence was more solid, its magic more palpable. It was still the last of its kind, but it was no longer fading. You're healing, Maya said, tears springing to her eyes. You're becoming more real. Because enough people believe now, the unicorn confirmed. You started with yourself, seeing me every day. Then you taught children to see. And as their belief spreads, to parents, to neighbors, to the village, the accumulated recognition anchors me more firmly to existence. You are saving my life, Maya. You have already saved it. Maya hugged the unicorn's neck, overwhelmed with joy and relief. I'm so glad. I couldn't bear the thought of you fading away. The world needs magic. It needs wonder. It needs beings like you. And it needs humans like you, the unicorn replied. Bridges between worlds, keepers of wonder, teachers of sight. You have found your purpose, Maya. Not in the city doing work that meant nothing, but here, teaching children to see magic, helping the forgotten be remembered, bringing light back to a darkening world. That night, after the unicorn left, Maya sat on her doorstep and thought about the journey that had led her here. She had come to this cottage to escape, to hide from a life that had not valued her. She had expected to live quietly, teaching school and avoiding the disappointment of her old life. Instead, she had found purpose beyond anything she had imagined. She had become a bridge between worlds, a keeper of magic, a teacher of wonder. And all because she had been willing to see what others overlooked, to acknowledge what others denied, to care about a lonely creature that knocked on her door, seeking recognition. 2 years after the unicorn first knocked on Maya's door, something miraculous happened. Maya was in her garden one evening when she heard an unfamiliar sound, hoofbeats, multiple sets approaching through the forest. She stood concerned. The unicorn never brought visitors. Then she saw them emerging from the trees. 3 unicorns, younger than her friend, their coats bright and their horns sharp, walking with confidence and grace. Maya's unicorn appeared behind them, and the joy radiating from it was palpable. They came, it said, wonder in its mental voice. I called, not really believing, and they came. Other unicorns who had been hiding in distant forests, fading like I was, feeling the shift in belief and following it to its source. They came to see what had changed, why magic was returning, and when they arrived, they found me. Not alone anymore. Not the last. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. There are others. You're not the last. I am not, the unicorn said, and if it could have cried with joy, Maya thought it would have. There are 7 of us total, scattered across the world, all hiding, all fading. But they felt the change, felt the growing belief, and they are coming to the place where wonder returned, coming home. Over the following months, all 7 unicorns gathered in Whisperwood Forest, drawn by the growing belief that Maya had helped cultivate. They established a new crystal grove, hidden from those who would not see, but visible to those who could. And as belief continued to grow, as more children learned to see, as more adults rediscovered wonder, other magical beings returned. The forest came alive again with creatures that had been thought extinct, magic that had been considered lost. Maya's cottage remained at the center of it all, a beacon for those seeking to bridge the gap between magic and mundane. She continued teaching, but now her lessons spread beyond the village school. Adults came seeking to learn true sight. Families brought children to be taught how to see. Word spread of the woman who had helped magic return, and people came from distant places to learn from her. But every evening, without fail, Maya's original unicorn would knock on her door at sunset, and Maya would invite it in, and they would spend time together, 2 friends who had saved each other simply by refusing to let the other remain unseen. On the 5th anniversary of their first meeting, the unicorn brought Maya a gift. "I want to show you something," it said, "a truth I have kept from you, waiting for the right time to reveal it." It touched its horn to her forehead, and Maya's true sight expanded even further. Suddenly she could see not just magical creatures and energy, but connections, threads of light linking beings to each other, showing relationships and bonds. And she saw with stunning clarity that every magical being in the forest was connected to her through glowing threads. Every creature she had acknowledged, every spirit she had seen, every magical being whose existence she had validated, they were all linked to her, sustained by her recognition. But the brightest thread of all ran between her and the unicorn, pulsing with power and purpose. "You asked once why I knocked on your door," the unicorn said. "I told you it was because you could see me, but that was not the whole truth." "What is the whole truth?" Maya asked. "I knocked on your door because I sensed in you what I needed most," the unicorn said. "Not just sight, but purpose. You were lost when you came here, searching for meaning. I was fading, searching for anchor. We found in each other exactly what we needed. You needed to be needed, to matter to someone. I needed to be seen, to matter to anyone. We saved each other, Maya. Not one saving the other, but mutual salvation through connection." Maya felt tears streaming down her face as the truth of those words settled into her heart. She had thought she was helping a lonely unicorn, but the unicorn had been helping her too, giving her purpose when she had none, showing her that her capacity to see and acknowledge was valuable, teaching her that small acts of kindness, like simply recognizing someone's existence, could change everything. "Thank you," Maya whispered, "for knocking on my door, for choosing me, for letting me matter." "Thank you," the unicorn replied, "for answering, for seeing me, for refusing to let me fade, for teaching the world to see again." They stood together in the fading light, woman and unicorn, bridge and magic, proof that sometimes salvation comes not from grand gestures, but from simple recognition, from being willing to see what others overlook, from acknowledging existence when denial would be easier, from caring enough to show up every single day and say, "You matter, you are real, you are seen." And in that moment, Maya finally understood why she had fallen to her knees the day she learned the full truth of why the unicorn knocked. Not from sorrow, though there was sorrow in the story, not from joy, though there was joy in the ending, but from overwhelming gratitude. Gratitude that she had been in the right place to hear those knocks. Gratitude that she had opened the door instead of ignoring them. Gratitude that she had chosen to see instead of deny. Gratitude that in saving a lonely unicorn from fading into legend, she had found her own purpose, her own meaning, her own salvation. Sometimes the most magical thing in the world is not the unicorn itself, but the willingness to believe it might be real, the courage to open the door when something impossible comes knocking, the compassion to see what others have rendered invisible. Maya had opened her door. She had seen, and in seeing, she had changed everything, not just for one lonely unicorn, but for an entire world that had forgotten how to wonder. The end. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of simply seeing and acknowledging others, please consider subscribing. We have just 15 days left in our goal to reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means we can continue creating these meaningful stories. Click subscribe, share with friends who appreciate magical tales with heart, and leave a comment about what resonated with you. Every subscription helps us keep bringing you these transformative narratives. Thank you for being part of our journey.